Anybody who might miss the beginning will have a chance to rewatch this on our website, so we'll share that as well. But thank you, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here this evening. My name is Stephanie Torres, and I'm the Senior Exhibitions Analyst with the City of San Antonio's Department of Arts and Culture. Thank you again for attending this information session and for your interest in our Centro de Artes open call. So I do ask that throughout the presentation, you remain on mute. We'll have a section at the end where people can ask questions, and we'll be doing that through the chat box. So I'll provide some information at the when we get to that section about the process for asking the questions. And like I mentioned, the presentation will be recorded, so this information will be available after the presentation is over, so you can reference again. So I'll go ahead and start. So this evening, we will be going over an overview of the open call. We'll be reviewing the application process, and then you'll also have a chance to ask questions. Just also, by the way, the presentation on screen, I'm not sure if some of you may have called in. If you're not on a computer, you may not see anything. But like I said, you can also access this online, but I'll try and everything that I explained will be presented as well. So I'll start with a little bit about the gallery. So Centro de Artes has been managed by the City of San Antonio Department of Arts and Culture since September of 2016. And the mission of the gallery is to tell the story of the Latino experience in the United States with a focus on San Antonio and South Texas through local, regional art, history, and culture, and is dedicated to sharing the transnational experience of Latinos in the U.S. The gallery is free and open to the public. Our hours are Wednesday through Friday from 10:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturday and Sundays from noon to 5. We're located downtown in historic Market Square in San Antonio. Right now we're closed for installation of our next exhibition, but on February 9th we'll reopen. And if you're in San Antonio and haven't been to the space and want to visit in anticipation of preparing your proposal, we'll be open after that date so you can stop by. So we've had 2 previous open calls, and our exhibitions have all come from those submissions. So on this slide, you'll see just a few images of some of our past exhibitions. For instance, in 2019, we hosted Delilah Montoya's contemporary Casta portraiture exhibition, Nuestra Calidad. At the same time, we hosted a solo exhibition by San Antonio photographer Joshua Perez. So he had a solo photography show in the space titled Todo Está Bien, Everything's Good. We also have hosted the Day of the Dead in Art, which was an exhibition curated by Dr. Ruben Cordova. And we've hosted 2 iterations of the NIFA Immigrant Artists Mentoring Program exhibitions. And so these all are exhibitions that came through our open call process and were selected through that. And this is just a sampling. We've had other exhibits, and you can view information about those on our website as well. And so we're currently working through selections from the last open call in 2019. And so all of our exhibition schedule is booked through February of 2025. So the open call, this current open call opened on December 5th, and everything will close on March 3rd, 2023. So all your applications are due by that date. So we're seeking proposals for exhibitions that will open starting in about the spring of 2025 through 2027. So we'll create a schedule that encompasses that time frame. And depending on the number of exhibitions selected and the length of exhibit will determine the duration of each, but typically each are on view for about 6 months. And so in the presentation here, I'll go over the proposal components, but you must definitely visit our website. The link you'll see on the slide, but I'll also put it in the chat to view the guidelines, the document that you'll need, and everything that you'll need to know to submit your application, as well as a link to our application website, GoSmart, which is where all of the applications will be accepted through that system. So I'm going to go ahead and post the link into the chat just so that everybody has it and can easily access it without having the slide available right now. So once the application closes, then you can kind of see the timeline for kind of evaluating and selecting applications. So From March to May, we'll evaluate and score the proposals. And then in June, we'll develop an exhibition schedule from the selected applications. And then in July, we'll present that schedule to the Centro de Artes Committee for approval. And then in August, it'll go to the San Antonio Arts Commission. And then by September of 2023, we hope to notify all applicants of whether or not they were selected for an exhibition. So now let's talk about eligibility requirements. So San Antonio and South Texas-based artists, scholars, curators are the main focus, but we do consider and receive proposals from national and international artists, curators, and even partnership with other cultures can be considered as long as there's a connection to the Latino community. So for curators, you're welcome to submit either as an individual curator or independent curator on behalf of an organization or collaborative effort with other curators, so a group of curators or group or organizers. We do stipulate that you cannot include yourself as an artist, as an artist in an exhibition that you're curating. And because the purpose of the exhibitions are not for sales, we don't, the curators shouldn't act as dealers for the artists that are included in their proposal. So everything should be more of museum quality, museum level exhibition. For artists, we accept proposals from individual artists for solo shows or a group of artists who want to submit to do a group show in the space. For solo artists, what we do ask that you include in your proposal is some explanation of how you will establish an objective perspective in the interpretation of your art. So what this means is who is going to be kind of that outside interpreter of your work, kind of helping you to make those selections, discerning which are the pieces that are the highest level or highest quality that'll be included in the show, someone who'll be working with you to do that. So if you're not submitting this, a curator is not working with you directly, you may work with someone who is going to write an essay about your exhibition or who's going to help you select the work. So you just kind of give an explanation in your proposal about how you've done that. Organizations that are nonprofit arts agencies who focus on Latino arts and culture programming are also welcome to apply. And so applicants should submit only one proposal for the open call in whatever category they choose. And U.S. citizenship is not a requirement for showing or curating a show at Centro de Artes. Okay, so the selection process. So we have an evaluation committee who will review all of the qualifying proposals in the GoSmart system and then score them according to the criteria that we'll talk about in a moment. Late proposals, incomplete proposals, or duplicate proposals will be disqualified. And so we also will not consider proposals for political purposes, so for or against candidates or ballot measures or bills, or if it's submitted for a religious institution or for support of a religion. We also would not consider a proposal that contains obscene material as defined by the Penal Code of Texas. And in the open call guidelines, there's details on all of this as well as a link to the Penal Code so you can kind of see what that's all about. And then based on the scoring, all of the recommendations will be presented to the San Antonio Arts Committee and then the Arts Commission for approval. And so one thing to note for the open call is regarding communication. So there's certain, during the open call process until things are all basically till everything is selected and notified, applicants should not communicate with City of San Antonio employees about your application. San Antonio Arts Commission members, San Antonio Arts Committee, Centro de Artes Committee members, or evaluation panelists. So pretty much I will be the point of contact for any applicant who's needing to get information about their application or questions about the open call, and I'll share my contact information with you as well. It's on the guidelines, and I'll put it in the chat later on as well. So just to kind of help avoid any violations of that, you want to limit your communication with those members of the committee and other city employees, and just primarily communicate with me. Okay, the selection criteria. So we'll go read through this, kind of give you an overview, and then we'll go into each section a little bit more detail. And again, this is all also outlined in greater detail in the guidelines on the website. So the committee will look at this criteria when they're evaluating and scoring the proposals. These are all listed starting on page 4 of the open call document. So you'll want to look at that to get all of the sort of everything else that goes along with this. So the applications will be evaluated on how well the proposal aligns with the mission of Centro de Artes, artistic merit and quality of the proposal, experience and qualifications of the respondent, and then the suitability of the exhibition to our facility. And then additionally, applicants can receive up to 25 bonus preference points. So from the kind of the chart above and the point counts, you can see that the proposal narrative and the artwork itself are the primary components for the committee that they'll use to evaluate your application. So you want to ensure that your proposal narrative clearly communicates your concept and how it relates to the Centro de Artes mission. You want to have strong work examples that are indicative of the type of work you intend to show in the space. And then we'll discuss this a little further in a moment. As well as 30 points will go to experience and qualifications of the curator, the artists, and the artists exhibited will be considered. So we'll look for you to provide a resume or a CV that outlines that experience, and kind of how you, kind of your experience in putting together exhibitions or as an artist, as an exhibiting artist. The curator is a key role in the exhibition process here at Centro de Artes. So they'll be required to write statements, exhibition essays, work with graphic designers, work with us and other city staff. In the open call document, there's also a section called roles and responsibilities. It just gives an indication of kind of the things that either the artist, the lead artist, or the curator who's working with us will be sort of expectations for working with us. And then they'll also look at the suitability and the logistics of the exhibition. So that's going to be worth 20 points. So looking at, how the budget fits into our budget and the logistical requirements, where the artwork is, how, expensive it might be to ship, any other logistical things that we need to take into consideration will be kind of evaluated in that section. And then bonus preference points will be provided in addition to the 100 points in the proposal for individual groups. So every kind of category can receive up to 5 points. So racial and ethnic communities of color, women, LGBTQIA plus applicants, veterans, and applicants who have not been selected for previous exhibitions at the gallery can each receive an additional 5 points in each category. Okay. And so your proposal will need to be comprised of these key components. So the proposal narrative, artist information, your budget, and your work samples. And so all of this should be submitted through the online application. And so we'll go in, I'll just kind of briefly talk about each section and just kind of give you some kind of information that you could use in preparing that. So the proposal narrative is going to be the component of your proposal that really describes to the committee, the evaluation committee, how your exhibition aligns with Centro de Artes' mission and strategic plan. So you want to make this 250 to 600 words and try and be as thorough as you can explaining your concept for the space. So you want to basically show that you put thought into your concept. You've thought about the audience, the space, kind of how your artwork will be displayed, how the viewer will experience it. Why did you choose these artists or this artwork, and communicate that concept in that narrative. You want to present like your best, most realistic proposal. We know that things may change, and this will be probably your exhibition really won't be put on for another 2 to 3 years, but at least at the time of your proposal, the artist should be committed. They may not have all of the specific artworks that they plan to show, but if you can at least have the artist list committed at the time, that would be the most feasible and most realistic proposal that you can submit. And in that section, you'll also have an opportunity to propose any public programming or kind of types of ancillary events that you would want to see put on with your exhibition. And then the next section that you'll submit would be information on the artists that are being presented or proposed. So as whoever is submitting the application, whether you're submitting it as a curator or as a lead artist or solo artist, or the main contact for the organization, you'll submit a resume and CV or bio for yourself as the curator. And then you'll also, if there are additional artists in your exhibition that you're proposing, you'll want to submit a resume and a bio for each of the artists in the proposal. And so this document will outline your experience and exhibition history as an artist, curator, or organization. So there's just a couple of kind of resources listed here. If this is something that you're new to or haven't done before, that can give you just some tips on how to put together like a CV or resume for artists and museum professionals. And then as well as another link here about writing proposals, curating, just some information and resources to kind of help you as you develop your proposal in these sections. And then the next component you'll submit that will be evaluated is the budget. So this, there's a lot more kind of to reference in this section. It's kind of more detailed explanation is available to you in the guidelines and on our website. So please go to that. There's also a budget template that you can use to fill in like an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document. So there's resources available to you for this section. So please visit the website to view that. And it goes into a little bit more detail on explaining what you basically have to propose in your budget. So for each exhibition, excuse me, there'll be up to $25,000 available to cover the exhibition expenses. So if you're proposing a 2-floor exhibition, you would have, you would account for those $25,000. If you're only doing 1 floor, then it would be half of that, so $12,500. And so in your budget, you want to account for artist and curator fees, transportation of the art. If you have an essay writer, someone who's going to be writing about your show, you want to include their fee. Any honorariums for panelists who, if you're having a panel discussion or some kind of event associated with your exhibition, those fees should be incorporated into that document, to that budget. And then any other potential expenses that you anticipate with the exhibition. So all of those should be included in that document. And so then the city will, once they come through, and the committee will look at that and evaluate how feasible that budget is as part of the evaluation process. And so with the budget, again, we know that it's, again, a 2 or 3 year out process. So at this point, it's going to be your most realistic budget, what things cost today. Things might change, and we'll look at the budget, if you're selected, we'll kind of have to reevaluate the costs once we get to that point. But at least in the budget that you submit now, we want to get an idea of what's expected to be able to consider what's feasible. If you also have like funding sources, for instance, for sure that you might have a grant or a sponsor, include that information in the budget as well, because that will help with that evaluation. And then the work samples. So this is also one of the very most important key components of your proposal, because this is going to show the artwork that you are wanting to display. So we want to see between 10 and 20 images. You can also upload video or audio files of work that will be included in the exhibition. So for each work, of art, you want to include the artist's name, sort of the general information, the title of the work, the year completed, dimensions, and the medium. And in GoSmart, there's 30 megabyte maximum size, so kind of the technical aspects of like the type of files that are going to be accepted or included here. But what you want to do is if you're doing a solo exhibition, again, include up to 20 images. If you're doing a group exhibition and there's multiple artists, we want to see at least 2 artwork images per artist in your show. So if it's more than that, you can upload sort of combine on, Word document or PDF if you need to combine multiple images for the artist that you're submitting. And so basically we want to see a preview of your proposed exhibition. So submit, clear, high quality photos, videos, or documents so that the committee can really see good examples of the type of work that you're proposing for the space. So the type of work samples that, you could submit, obviously pieces, photos of completed artwork, or if this is artwork that might be in process or that is going to be specifically made for the show, you can submit similar work, or you can also do like preliminary sketches or drawings along with some examples of already completed work that's sort of in the same style. Exhibition plans and mock-ups, you can also include that. If the exhibit has been shown elsewhere, you can include photos of previous installations to give us a sense of how it all kind of comes together. So all of those are the types of things that you can submit with your application. And then you can, this just kind of gives you an idea of like I said, there's 2 spaces. You can propose for both floors. You can propose for one floor. It's really up to you kind of how you want to do that. If you specifically want to submit it for like the second floor or the first floor, you can just specify that in your application. If you don't have a preference, then when we evaluate all the proposals and start putting together a schedule, we'll kind of make that determination. But if you do kind of are looking at a specific space, then indicate that so we can know kind of what you're planning. And all of these floor plans are also available on our website in the resources section, so you can view those. It has all the measurements of each of the wall lengths. One thing that we will mention is that the walls, like kind of the way that the walls are set up, we basically keep it like that. Those aren't movable walls. We don't build any additional walls. So basically the layout that you see will be the layout that you'll have to work with. Okay, and so how to apply. So like I mentioned, all applications must be submitted through our online application through GoSmart. And everything is due March 3rd by 5 p.m. Central Time. So please make sure that when you're in your application that you upload all of the required documents and all of your images are uploaded before you submit, because once you submit, you cannot go back and make any changes, and it'll be basically, that's what you're turning in. Technical assistance for the system is available through the GoSmart website. So I'm available to help with like questions about the proposal, but as far as like the actual application system, it's best that you go directly to GoSmart. They have a great website with lots of tips, lots of tutorials and guides, and it's really easy to kind of find information about like the thing that you're trying to do if you're unsure. So I really highly recommend that you go to that link. There's also a link on the application website or on the GoSmart website directly to their kind of knowledge base. So that's really helpful. And I guess just please don't wait until the last minute. Technical issues can always happen. So try and get everything done, but definitely far before March 3rd at 5 p.m. So now I'd like to basically open it up to audience Q&A and kind of help answer any questions that you might have. We do want to do this. The easiest way to kind of manage this is to have you type your questions in the chat, and then I will go through and read them and then provide a response. So what I'll do is I'll give everybody some time right now to get your questions, type them in, and then we'll start responding. As I mentioned, if you're calling in, you probably won't hear anything for a little bit. We're just giving people a chance to submit their questions. And then I'll answer as many as possible here. We'll also post this session online recorded, and then we'll compile, we have a frequently asked questions document already on the website, but I'll also compile any additional questions that come through in this session. So I'll give people a few minutes and then I'll start answering questions. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start answering the questions that have come through. So one of the questions is, we are a group of artists and would like to apply with a group show. Can we do that by choosing one artist to be responsible for the application? And then undue artworks need to be insured. So yes, so as a group of artists, you would do that as submitting so one of your artists would be like the lead who would submit the application for the group and then include all of the information for all of the participating artists in the application. So just one artist needs to submit it for everybody in the group show, but do submit it as an artist, not as a curator. And then the artworks, so the city will insure artworks when they're selected. So once we select exhibitions and we do what's called a loan agreement with the artist, and then we would put those artworks that are included in the show on our insurance while they're in the show. And then there was a follow-up question to that same question about group shows. So if we choose the group rep, will that person not be able to participate as an artist? So they will be able to participate as an artist if you submit it as an artist. If they submit as a curator, then they can't curate themselves into the show. But a group of artists would be everybody, the artist who submits on behalf of the group can be in the show. We had another question that says, how many applications do you usually receive? It varies, anywhere from, I guess, at minimum 20 applications. We've had, I think right now we have at least that kind of in process. So I anticipate at least 20 or so that will be submitted to choose from. In the past, when we've actually made selections, we've selected, I believe, anywhere between 8 and 10 per like open call cycle. So for a 2 or 3 year exhibition calendar. The next question I see is, are there potential partners or sponsors that would present a conflict of interest and disqualify our proposal? Example, school districts. I guess that may be a more specific question, like if you had a specific sponsor in mind. I can't off the top of my head think of a sponsor that would disqualify or have a conflict of interest if they were like kind of providing funds for the exhibition. I would say if you have someone in mind and wanted to check that before you submit your application, you can email me directly with that question and we can kind of answer that. I can't, like I said, I can't think in general of any group that would create that conflict. Do we have to, so question, do we have to upload all proposal materials at one time? Or does the system hold information that is submitted in sections? Yeah. Yes. So as you go through the application, you can upload information as you go and then save it along the way, and then you can review it all and don't you submit it once you're ready to. So you don't have to upload it all at once and submit. You can save it, come back to it, and just kind of build your application as you go. But once you do hit submit, you can't go back. Um, Then I had a question. How will the slide deck and or recording of this meeting be made available to us? And yes, the recording that you see here will all be posted most likely on the same website where all the information for the open call is. So there's a section tab called available help. So we'll work to post that in that um, in that section. Um, Next question is, do you have a photography focus exhibit for Photo Septiembre, or is it depending on the entries? Yeah, it'll all just depend on the entries. So if we do receive a photography focus exhibit and the timing of the schedule coincides with Photo Septiembre, we can try and schedule it around that time, but it just all depends on the number of proposals and kind of the schedule that we develop. And then the next question is, if we want to submit a PDF catalog documenting a previous iteration of the exhibition, would that be considered a single image? You could upload that into GoSmart as a single file, I believe, as long as it is no more than 30 megabytes. So like you'd have to make sure it isn't over the size, the maximum size um, in the system. But you could submit that as one of your image or work samples. Can I include, so the next question is, can I include production costs for the exhibition? So if you're talking about funding, like making of the artwork, that is not something that we would fund. So the artwork would already need to be produced. And so this would just be costs for the actual putting together the exhibition, not for creating artwork. The next question is, I'm an MFA student and some of the work I'll be submitting will have been done during the program. Is this okay with Centro de Artes? And yes, you can submit work, include work in your proposal that was created while you were a student. That is allowed. Then the next question is, do you have info about National Poetry Month participation? I'm not, I guess maybe I just need some clarification on what type of information you need about National Poetry Month. So that's held in April. And so that is primarily poetry events that are held throughout the city. If we do have an event at Centro de Artes during April that is poetry related, we would include it on the National Poetry Month calendar, but we don't do anything, I guess, specific related to National Poetry Month at Centro de Artes. So I don't know if that answers your question, or if you need further clarification or had another specific question, you can always email me directly and I can try and help give you some more clarity. The next, so I have another question that says, would an event such as a photography portrait workshop be eligible as a community engagement event? I'm considering an event for youth. You can certainly propose that in your exhibition proposal. I think what would be important to also include in your budget is kind of the logistics of that in terms of what that would encompass in terms of like materials or things that might be needed to host a workshop like that. But you can certainly propose it and it can be considered as part of your proposal. Okay, next question is, in the case of the group exhibit, should a curator be assigned to assemble the exhibition, or do the artists need to present a final layout and consider everything to put into the exhibition together? I think that would be really sort of your call. We don't require that you work with the curator, so that wouldn't necessarily be a requirement on our part. I think it would just be part of y'all's, the artist group's organization process if you want to make those selections together, or if you wanted to bring in that outside perspective to look at your work and help you assemble it. That would be your decision. And then you would, provide that proposal or, your layout or that information might be submitted in your proposal, but it would be entirely up to you if you decide to bring in a curator to work with you. The next question is, are we able to see the progress of our application after submitting? There wouldn't be, I believe, once you submit it into GoSmart, there's not going to be really any updates to it until we, notify people in September. So the timeline that I shared earlier is basically the process that will follow. So your application will go through that. If there's any information that we need along the way, we would potentially reach out, but for the most part, once it's submitted, there's not going to be really too many updates that we'll provide to applicants until September. The next question is, do promotional costs for the event need to be included in the proposal? Promotional costs, so our department has, so in our overall budget, we do already kind of account for promotion of the exhibition through our city's marketing program. So you don't have to include like promotional, PR or anything like that in your budget. That's already part of the city's funding for that in our overall budget. So that doesn't need to be included. So the next question is about the file limits. What file size limit is for the file size limit is for each file, not all 20 images. Correct. I believe each file is 30 megabytes. But I think once you get into GoSmart, like I said, the technical information on there will be clearer and you can upload, images in those different file sizes. But I believe it is per image. So the next question is, would we prefer to submit photography and bidimensional works of art instead of performance and sculpture? We have shown exhibitions of all mediums, so 2D works, photography, painting, sculpture, performance. The space is not as conducive to like performance because of just how big it is. If you've ever been there, the acoustics of it are just really, loud, the floor. So in terms of like a performance, there are times when artists have done performances in the space as part of the exhibition, so it's not out of the question. But I guess you would just have to provide sort of the context for all of that, and also the scale of the sculptures and kind of everything that kind of goes with it. How they would be displayed, how big, what materials they're made of. So all of that information should be provided, but I think all of those mediums can definitely be considered for this space. So next question is, what is the difference between submitting as a curator versus an organization? So for submitting as a curator, you may be, again, just curating on your own behalf, like independently, and not be associated with an organization. So for instance, we've had an exhibition in the past that was submitted by Self-Help Graphics in LA. So they submitted a Day of the Dead exhibition, and we hosted that. And so they submitted it as the organization. So we worked with the organization directly, not with an independent curator. We've also had similar, another organization in San Antonio, Centro submitted a proposal that they, as an organization, curated for this space. So I hope that kind of helps explain. So I guess the organization would be basically the direct contact. It would have like a major role in putting together the exhibition with us versus a curator who would be working independently and not necessarily affiliated with an organization. And then the next question is, if we would need to travel from out of state, should that be included in the budget? Yes, include any sort of proposed travel costs in your budget. I will say, generally, it's travel costs can usually be covered, like for independent curators or solo show artists. If you have a show with like multiple artists, that might be a challenge. We're not often able to fund travel for multiple groups of artists, but you can certainly submit what you propose in your application, and then we can review that and consider it. The next question is, can a solo artist allot a fee for themselves out of the budget? Yes. You would want to include a fee, your artist fee for putting together your exhibition and for showing it in the space. So yes, you should include your fee in the budget as a solo artist. And then the next question is it possible to paint the walls of the gallery with images that accompany the work? So in general, with our budget and our timing, we don't allow for painting of the walls. So basically you would want to anticipate showing on the white walls of the gallery. We do, can create like vinyl text panels, like if there's additional information you want to provide in sections of the space. But for the most part, with very few exceptions, like maybe we would be able to paint a wall here or there. The majority of the space would need to be white walls. And then, does the budget allow to pay a curator if we are exhibiting as a solo artist? I would say you would want to include, yes, any curator fees, like if they are working with you to curate your show, then yes, you would want to include those fees in the budget. Okay, so if we own, the next question, if we own the artwork to be displayed and many of the artists are deceased or unknown, would we need to provide artist honorariums? We're doing our best. No, if you're submitting, I guess if you are an organization submitting, and we would be working directly with the organization, then if you're the owner, then you would be the lender, so we wouldn't have to provide honorariums, of course, to any artists that are unavailable or deceased or anything like that. So we would, if the organization is doing a fee, then we would just work directly with the organization to do that, or the lender. The next question is, can interactive installations be included? And yes, there is opportunity for interactive installations to be considered. You can just, again, do your best to explain kind of what that interactive component will be, how that would be installed in the gallery, and all of the kind of logistics that might be involved in that, so the evaluation committee can have a good sense of what you're proposing. Does Centro provide plinths and plexiglass coverings for 3D objects, or would that need to be factored into shipping? No, we do have a number of plinths, and we have plexiglass covers for 3D objects. So we do have some. We would just need to, I guess, kind of know in general how many, once if an exhibition is selected, then we would kind of think about how many objects are going to be included and ensure that we have enough, or we can build additional, or budget to have more. But we have a number, and we've included, I don't think I have the images here, but we have included several objects that needed to be enclosed in plexi, and we have the plinths for that. Next question is, do you have the equipment for video projection, or will that be included in the budget? So we do have 2 projectors, and so we have equipment to be able to project at least 2 at a time, so if any projections beyond those 2 need to be done, then you would want to include a budget for additional video projections. The next question is, what about co-curators working with an organization? Definitely, I mean, it's certainly allowed. So I would say that would be submitted as an organization, and then, whoever the lead curator or would submit it on their behalf, and then you would just include the bios and CVs for both of the curators who are working on the exhibition. So if that makes sense. And then, does artwork need to be related with Latin culture? Yes, so the mission of the gallery is to promote Latino arts and culture. So the exhibition and the artwork does need to relate and have a connection to Latino art, history, and culture. Okay. So my application will consist of a specific theme of photos, but I have a limited number of examples, but can share other similar work to submit a total of 20. Yes, that's acceptable. As long as you have, similar quality work, and, you can explain in your proposal that this is what you're working on, and that these are examples of the type of work that you'll be submitting. Next question is, I'm considering a panel discussion with artists from out of state. Would it be allowed to have a streaming event? You can certainly propose a streaming event, and we can consider it. We have done streaming events before, so we can take that into consideration, and certainly you can propose that. And then the next question is, a floor interactive art installation could be accepted. You can certainly propose a floor interactive art installation. Again, just provide as much detail in your proposal as to what that involves, how that would be displayed, and so that the committee has enough information to evaluate that in the context of the space. Our frames have security hardware. Would this pose a problem? No, we can install works that have security hardware. We do that often. In terms of the art having to be related to Latin cultures, being Latino enough, if you're submitting as a Latino artist, so we do want to highlight Latino artists, so yes, that would be acceptable. Great questions. I'm going to check. I think there's some questions in the Q&A, so I'm going to look through these as well. Let's see. Please, like I said, please try and include your questions just in the chat section, which is the bottom right. I'm going to double check in the Q&A, but I just want to make sure I don't miss anybody. So I'm going to go through. So in the Q&A, I see a question that says, have you curated site-specific installations? And yes, we have artists who've done site-specific installations, so that's certainly something that can be proposed. And then the next question is, how frequently does the open call happen? This call is for 2025, 2026. So we do them, at least we've done, like I said, we've done 2 annually, and then the pandemic kind of closed operations for us for a while. So generally every 1 to 2 years, it really just depends on how many proposals come through and are selected and how far in advance we have scheduled out the gallery. So I would say annually, but it's all going to depend on how many proposals we have. So if we, don't need to do one annually, we may not, but that all will depend on the number of applications that we receive. Then I have a question that says, I'm a new artist, started 2 years ago. Are those applying need to be established as an artist, or are new artists eligible to apply? So we accept proposals from emerging and established artists. Just know, I guess, if you've never been to the space, it is a very, very large space, even if you propose 1 floor. So what you want to make sure you have is enough work and high quality work to fit the space, and that, it would be, available to do. So sometimes the issue with new artists is they just may not have a large enough body of work for the space. So if you think you do and are wanting to submit your proposal, you're absolutely welcome to submit. And then I think the last question here from the Q&A is, can installations be included in the proposal? If so, can it be a sketch, or does it have to be a photo? If you have an installation that you're proposing and you don't have, you don't necessarily haven't created an installation and you only have a sketch, that's fine. You can submit a sketch along with a description of what the installation is and how it would be displayed. Okay, let me go back to the chat. Okay, so next question. If we submit as an organization and we have a group show, but may have unknown artists or only 1 example per artist, is that okay? Yes, that should be fine. And can framing be considered as part of the budget? Yes, if you have potential framing costs, you can include that in the budget. So next question is, does Centro have security, humidity control, or outside light coming into the gallery spaces? So we do have a security guard up front, and we also have security, there's cameras. I don't believe they are monitored, but there are cameras in the space. Humidity control, we do not have humidity control. We do have, air conditioning, but we don't have humidity control in the space. Outside light, for the most part, there's a section of the gallery that has storefront windows, but the rest of the space does not have outside light. And then someone's asked, what is the website for applying, and where would we email or call with additional questions for application? So I'll post that in the chat. I did post, I believe, the website already, but I'll post it again. And I'll also include my email address for questions. And then another question asks, could we try to get external funding? Yes, if you have external funding for your exhibition, that's certainly allowed. And you can also just explain that funding in your budget when you propose them. And I'll go ahead and place the link in my email. So copy. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in the chat now. So this is the open call website again that has all of the resources and links to what you need to apply and where you go to apply. And then my information to contact me directly is also in the chat. So if you have any questions, you can certainly email me. My information is also all over the website and in the open call document. So if you missed that, you can also send me an email with questions that you might have, and I'm happy to help answer. But if you do think you want to apply, I would suggest definitely start looking at all of that information now. You can go into Go Smart and open up a, login, create a login. You have to, create a profile and stuff, and you can start looking at the application, see what you need, so that you can at least get a head start on preparing, because we're about a month away. So I know time flies, and I don't want anybody to run into any issues or miss the deadline to get your proposal in, because like I said, if we're scheduling out through 2027, so we might not have an open call, in the near future. So definitely get your applications in if you're interested. So I think that might be all of the questions. I think everybody had great questions, and so I'm glad that you all were able to attend and help get those answered. We will post this, so you'll be able to go back and reference, so don't worry. If you have any other questions or think of something later on that I didn't answer that comes up, please don't hesitate to email and ask. Here, I'll post this up here just so you can kind of see. Again, our website, sanantonio.gov/art, has all the links to everything that you need for both the open call and to learn about our exhibitions and to come visit the space if you want to get a sense for the gallery before you submit your proposal. I think that helps just to kind of get an idea of what you want to do. And we have a really great exhibition opening next week on February 9th. So if you haven't been and are interested in coming, we have an opening reception February 9th at 6 p.m. The exhibition is called Soy de Texas, and it's curated by Rigo Luna of Presa House Gallery. And he's got 40 Texas-based artists showing some really great work, both floors of the gallery, so it's going to be really huge. So please join us if you can, or stop by after we're open to check it out. Again, there's my contact information. And thank you all so much for your questions and for your participation tonight. I look forward to seeing your proposals. So thank you very much.